All right, folks, as I mentioned in a previous video, Donald Trump's corruption is so staggering that surprisingly, it seems to have triggered a full-blown MAGA mutiny. Laura Loomer, Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, an increasing number of right-wing figures and publications are publicly condemning Trump's corrupt, unconstitutional decision to accept a $400 million luxury jet from a foreign government with whom he has billions of dollars of personal business, Qatar. A jet that he plans to take with him once he leaves office, but after he makes taxpayers pay for the security upgrades needed to temporarily make it Air Force One. It's a total racket. MAGA is furious, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, just want to set the table here in a couple of ways. I'm going to show you some clips, read you some things. Some prominent MAGA influencers are pissed and concerned. Now, again, there's a hypocrisy there. They're not nearly as pissed as they would be if this were a Democrat. There's still a double standard. There's still a grading of Trump on the curve. Not nearly as much of MAGA should be outraged or is outraged as they should be. But I am surprised at the level of backlash and how quickly Trump is getting it. So to give you some context of where Trump is, because he's pissed at the backlash he's getting, Trump goes nuclear on critics of Qatar jet gift. World-class losers. Okay? So, as Mediaite reports, Trump launched what amounts to a double-edged rebuttal against criticism from the left over his plans to accept a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar's royal family, while sidestepping outrage from his own base, which is there, and we'll get to it. So he says on Truth Social, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction, so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers, MAGA. So that's Trump's cope. He's pissed. World-class losers. Only world-class losers would complain about this. Well, it's not public. It's not accountable. Trump is taking the plane when he leaves, and taxpayers are going to foot the bill to upgrade it needed to be Air Force One, okay? Just to give you a taste of where we are, here's Ben Shapiro, you know, the founder of the Daily Wire, one of the biggest conservative pundits out there who endorsed, donated to, campaigned for, voted for Donald Trump.
The Trump administration is now preparing to accept a super luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from the royal family of Qatar. It is a $400 million gift available for use by President Trump as new Air Force One until shortly before he leaves office, at which time, according to the deal, the plane doesn't stay with the United States government. It then moves to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation, taking sacks of goodies from people who support Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, all the rest. That's not America first. Like, please define America first in a way that says you should take sacks of cash from the Qatari royals who are behind Al Jazeera. It just isn't America first in any conceivable way. So back to the original question. Is this good for President Trump? Is it good for his agenda? Is it good for draining the swamp and getting things done? The answer is no, it isn't. It isn't. If you want President Trump to succeed, this kind of skeezy stuff needs to stop. The Trump administration.
So there you go. Again, we're going to play more of that in just a second, but just to confirm, Ben Shapiro is calling this out. And again, I'll point out, we're not going to read the whole article because we have so many things to get into. But as the Intelligencer reports, and as I discussed in a previous video, we will pay, the taxpayers will pay for the Air Force and the DOD to upgrade, to provide the military and security upgrades needed to turn this luxury jet into Air Force One. This jet is newer than Air Force One. It's more luxurious and lavish, right? It's got gold accents and all this other, gaudy shit that Trump likes. But militarily, in terms of its capabilities, it's nothing compared to Air Force One. Air Force One can survive an EMP. It's the most secure plane by far on the planet. So in order to house and to carry the President of the United States safely, taxpayers will have to upgrade the military capability of this jet. Who knows how much it's going to cost? Tens of millions, billions, who knows? So Trump's going to get this $400 million luxury jet free of charge. We're going to pay millions, tens of millions, billions of dollars to upgrade it for him. And then he's going to take the damn thing with him when he leaves? Nah, that's insane. That's insane. So let's look at some other reactions. So to Trump, Tim Pool, another MAGA pundit, says it bothers basically everyone. It's not just left-wingers, it's not just Democrats. It bothers everyone. And it does, and it should. It doesn't bother everyone. It should bother everyone. There's still some MAGA diehards who are being very quiet about this, who are muted in comparison to how they would be if it were President Obama, President Biden, President Hillary Clinton, President Kamala Harris. Laura Loomer, as we discussed in a video yesterday, she has been outraged over this, and she is Trump's favorite MAGA influencer. Oh, this is a stain on his presidency. I'm so disappointed. And she, of course, is going out of her way to blame Attorney General Pam Bondi, trying to avoid putting the blame on Trump, which is where it belongs. But those are some three big names, and there are others as well that we're going to get into. Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Laura Loomer. When you lose them, you know you're corrupt because they're inclined to grade his ass on a curve anyway and to look in the opposite direction. Now, we're going to play, again, some more of what Ben Shapiro had to say about this, but this particular part of the clip I really want to emphasize.
It's unbelievably important that the Trump administration avoid scandal. That is the reason I'm worried about this stuff. Yes, I think inherently it is bad. I do not think this is good. I think if we switch the names to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we'd all be freaking out on the right. Let's say if Qatar was giving Joe a $400 million jet for his use at his presidential library after his presidency, or if Hunter launched a crypto firm with the son of Antony Blinken and then launched a series of crypto products in which mysterious strangers, including foreigners, were investing, all while that crypto firm was being regulated by Joe's administration, we'd all have been pretty upset on the right. We might have said that it was worthy of some coverage. Now, as I say, again, it could be all of these reports are all of them. Maybe it's all just a misreading of perfectly innocent business. Sure, it's possible. But the point is this. President Trump has enemies all over the place. He has people seeking to take advantage of their proximity to his power. He has media outlets that would love nothing better than to set him up for another impeachment. And I promise you, if these issues begin to dog his administration, Republicans will lose Congress. It's that simple. Republicans are this close to losing Congress anyway. And then whatever President Trump hopes to do, whatever agenda we all voted for, will be DOA. The investigations will never end. There will be more impeachments. All of that will happen. The administration's policy is too important for this sort of activity. President Trump promised to drain the swamp. This is not, in fact, draining the swamp. President Trump was elected based on the American people being sick and tired of the swamp, tired of Hunter, tired of the Clintons, tired of the Biden crime family. Why in the world would President Trump be well served by this sort of vulnerability?
What Trump is doing is 10,000 times worse than any allegations made about Hillary Clinton, President Obama, President Biden, Hunter Biden. Ben Shapiro won't go so far as to admit that. And he's doing what so many conservatives do when they occasionally criticize Trump. They fear that this is setting him up for failure. It's not, I don't even know if they really have a personal objection to what Trump is doing. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's like, oh shit, this is a strategic mistake. I don't believe it's necessarily some sort of consistent moral philosophy. Ben Shapiro, in a debate that he had with Destiny on Lex Friedman, said he grades Trump on a curve. I think this is purely because Shapiro genuinely believes that this will result in electoral backlash. And if he could guarantee that it wouldn't, he'd be content for Trump to be as corrupt as possible. Because he only cares about corruption as a matter of principle when it's Democrats. He only cares about corruption with respect to Republicans if it makes them electorally vulnerable. And again, he gave the game away here, right? So I'm not giving Shapiro credit here. I'm not saying, well done, you morally consistent arbiter. He's just trying to cover his own ass and cover Trump's ass. And you can even hear it in his voice. Why is Trump well served? No, Trump is the corrupt one. Trump is objectively more corrupt by far than Joe and Hunter Biden. And you know that, Ben. You just don't want to admit it because Trump is a vehicle for your policy preferences. And so you're willing to grade him on a curve. That's it. That's what this is. But it does say something that is so corrupt that Shapiro recognizes the political vulnerability it would create. Now, some other things that Shapiro says in this video, we're not going to play the whole thing. He says, y'all remember Trump launching the $Trump crypto 3 days before taking office as president? Trump himself announced the Trump crypto on X. In Truth Social, he described it as a meme coin, meaning it had no inherent value. It was just there for the kinds of shits and giggles. The price spiked to a trading value of nearly $13 billion, making it the 19th most valuable cryptocurrency on planet Earth. And then it proceeded to plummet, like really, really dive. The project allegedly netted people associated with it, meaning the Trump organizations associated with Trump crypto, some $350 million. 80% of the outstanding supply of that meme coin is held by insiders, presumably members of the Trump organization. Overall, according to data shared with CNBC, there were 2 million wallets that bought that Trump meme coin. 764,000 of them lost money. 58 wallets made more than $10 million. And then in April, the Trump meme coin announced that the top 220 holders of the meme coin would be invited to an intimate private dinner with Trump at his golf club. The top 25 were invited to a VIP White House tour. According to Bloomberg News, 19 of the top 25 Holders of that Trump meme coin have registered on the website's leaderboard, have been using the coins, have bought the coins using foreign exchanges that claim to exclude U.S. customers, which means that foreigners are buying a lot of the meme coin and getting meetings with Trump, the VIP White House tours, and all the rest. That raises the question of influence peddling. So setting the Qatar jet aside, Ben Shapiro is also calling out the influence peddling of the Trump meme coin, which in and of itself is probably the single greatest act of financial corruption we've ever seen from a sitting president. So again, Shapiro recognizes this. And the only reason he's coming public with it now is because he believes that, coupled with the Qatari jet and all these things, will lead to electoral consequence. A principled moral actor would have been condemning this from day one, which Shapiro has not. Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. He says, we on the right. If this were Joe and Hunter Biden, we'd be apoplectic. Yep, and you'd be bitching about it from day one as loudly as possible. You have not done it here, even though what Trump is doing is objectively worse than anything associated with the Bidens. But it's not just Shapiro, it's not just Poole, it's not just Laura Loomer. It's also the Barry Weiss-led center-right Free Press. Trump's disgraceful palace in the sky. This is by the editors of the Free Press. A $400 million Qatari gift and the Trump family business. And they get pretty brutal. It feels like a lifetime ago when the Republican Party was in high dudgeon over President Biden's son, Hunter. He'd reportedly monetized his family name to drum up business in China and Ukraine and for his own paintings. For a hot minute, many in the GOP wanted to impeach the 46th president over the whole affair. When the president pardoned his son Hunter in December, Trump posted on Truth Social that it was, quote, an abuse and miscarriage of justice. The Hunter Biden affair really was a scandal. But these days, it seems like small potatoes. So even the Free Press is acknowledging that what Trump is doing is objectively far more corrupt than anything associated with the Hunter Biden situation. And believe me, the Free Press bought full bore into all the claims about Hunter Biden. When you lose the Free Press over this issue, you've really, really lost on the merits. Look no further than the latest gift from the Qatari government, which Trump is reportedly set to accept this week. A luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet. This palace in the sky offered to the president by the country that hosts the Muslim Brotherhood will be first used as Air Force One. Then it will transfer to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation for ownership, according to the proposed arrangement. In other words, it will be a personal gift to the president worth $400 million. So, if true, and Trump has since confirmed, it seems on its face to violate the emoluments clause of the Constitution. But put aside the legal aspects of this for a moment, and even the question of whether the proposed eventual ownership by the Trump Library is the same thing as a personal gift to Trump. It is. Just consider the plain matter of our national security. A plane handed to the president by a foreign government, let alone a government that hosts the leaders of Hamas, cooperates with Iran, fuels popular anti-Semitism throughout the Arab world through its government mouthpiece, Al Jazeera. They hate Al Jazeera. And poured nearly more than $2 billion into universities since 2021. That's a confusing sentence. As these campuses express solidarity, with the Palestinian terrorism. So that's why I'm saying, like, the right wing as hell. These people are as right wing as hell, and they think that it's so bad it also represents a national security risk to Trump, and he's going along with it anyway. The number of conflicts of interest and foreign business entanglements for the Trump family, especially Trump's son, Don Jr. and Eric, since their father won the White House, is quite something. Here's a partial list, limited to just the past few weeks. Late last month, Eric Trump flew to Qatar's capital, Doha, to ink a new deal on a luxury golf resort worth some $5.5 billion, thus the personal business with Qatar. It will net millions to the Trump organization, including to Trump himself, in fees for licensing and management, according to the New York Times. Last month, the Trump family business announced plans to build a new 80-story Trump hotel and residences Dubai that will feature the world's highest elevation swimming pool. Also in April, Don Jr. announced he was opening a private club in Georgetown alongside Alex and Zach Witkoff, sons of Trump's special envoy to the Middle East and Russia, and Omid Malik, who runs 1789 Capital, an investment firm that recently brought on Don Jr. as a partner. It has a membership fee of $500,000 and is appropriately called Executive Branch. Eric Trump is on the board of World Liberty Financial, which is minting a new crypto coin that will be used to finance a $2 billion deal between Emirati investment fund MGX and the biggest crypto exchange in the world, Binance. Zach Witkoff is a co-founder of World Liberty Financial, and Binance, by the way, was under investigation by the FTC. Or maybe it was the SEC. It was the FTC or SEC. It was under investigation by the federal government, and since it's been dropped. Interesting. Speaking of crypto, Trump is slated to attend a private dinner on May 22nd at his Virginia golf resort with the biggest investors in his new Trump coin. The Wall Street Journal reports the Trump family businesses and the new ventures partners have already cleared $300 million from the trading of the new meme coin. That's staggering. So, again, this is precisely the kind of self-dealing in the executive branch that Congress is supposed to check and balance according to our Constitution. But the Republican Party, so outraged over Hunter Biden's corruption, has been mute. And the Democrats, for the most part, have been too busy screaming about every other Trump tweet and policy action to focus on the scandal in plain sight. And then they highlight, which we discussed yesterday in a video, Richie Torres, a Democratic congressman who's proposing an investigation into Trump, but that would be from the executive branch, so we don't know exactly how impartial it would be. 5 months ago, it concludes, it looked like Hunter Biden's saga was a cautionary tale. Today, it appears to be an ominous precedent, and again, objectively far worse, which even they recognize. But it's not just the free press. You also have the National Review. And here's what's funny. The National Review actually begins talking about Hunter Biden and President Biden and the Biden family. They go into vivid detail. But here's what's interesting. It was a lure. We all agree that backdoor payments and cash contribution to the president and his family are bad, right? Right? Because while we're at it, the president of the United States should not be accepting a new Air Force One from the government of Qatar. ABC News reports this highly unusual, unprecedented arrangement is sure to raise questions about whether it's legal for the Trump administration and ultimately the Trump Presidential Library Foundation to accept such a valuable gift from a foreign power. You think? The American public is just now hearing about it, but it sounds like it's more than halfway towards being a done deal. He goes on to say, the writer from the National Review, I don't care if Boeing is completing the next Air Force One at the speed of George R.R. Martin writing the next Game of Thrones novel. The president cannot accept a plane that he will fly during his presidency from a foreign power, particularly not one described as, quote, one of the world's foremost proponents of violent Islamist movements and states. And then they go on to rip into Pam Bondi the way that Laura Loomer did, pointing out that she was a registered lobbyist for the government of Qatar, making $115,000 per month, according to her forms, required by the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. So, a former highly paid lobbyist for Qatar says she sees no ethical problem with the president she works for accepting a $400 million plane from the government of Qatar. Hey, who pays the tariffs on the import of that plane? Dear congressional Republicans, sometimes the president needs you to step in to save him from himself. While we're at it, the president of the United States should not be selling meme coins or other cryptocurrency while his administration is crafting federal rules for the regulation of that currency. So they also tear into him over the crypto bullshit too. Remember, people buy cryptocurrency and meme coins with real money. I know this is going to shock you, but it turns out that the purchase of Trump's meme coins have not turned out well for those who buy them. And we're just reading excerpts at this point. So, keep scrolling. Let's see here. Trump also never disclosed who funded the presidential transition effort. The Trump inaugural committee did disclose its donors as required by the law. The committee raised $239 million in total. If that seems like it's a lot, it's because it is. Sorry, MAGA fans, but the first half of this newsletter about the gobs of foreign money coming into the University of Pennsylvania was a lure to get you to read about all the shady stuff your guy's doing. An observation about the Biden and Trump families. They're already rich. They already have palatial homes and fancy cars and fine suits and a comfortable financial cushion. If they never accepted a dime from any foreigner seeking influence, both families were already guaranteed to live out their days with more financial resources than probably 99% of all Americans. But apparently that wasn't enough for them. Oh, and remember, your daughter's just going to have to get by with fewer dollars for the foreseeable future. So again, conservative publication, they want to create some sort of false equivalence between President Biden and Donald Trump when there is none. Trump is just objectively 10,000 times worse than the most bad faith maximalist view of President Biden's alleged corruption. But it says something. The National Review, the Free Press, Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Laura Loomer publicly condemning Trump for this, calling him out for this. That's how you know it is objectively corrupt. So we are seeing a surprising MAGA rebellion on this issue. Hopefully we will see more of it. Democrats should do what they can to exploit more of it. And yes, going back to Ben Shapiro, beginning where we started, Shapiro says if this becomes an issue, Democrats will win the midterms. And I hope that's the case. I hope that Democrats demagogue the hell out of this and point this out to the American people. And I hope that if and when Democrats retake either the House or the Senate or both, ideally, they investigate publicly the shit out of this. The way that Republicans would if the shoe were on the other foot, the way that Republicans attempted to do with President Biden. Democrats have got to start playing hardball, and they have to start doing it publicly and expose the corruption of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.